This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Not everyone is careful with your personal information, which might explain why there's a victim of identity theft every 5 seconds in the U.S. Fortunately, there's LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity. If your identity is stolen, a U.S.-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year by visiting lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This is The Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, here's Roger Stone.
Welcome back to The Roger Stone Show. This is the place for politics. New York Attorney General Letitia James says that no one is above the law. You may recall that she prosecuted President Donald Trump in his famous valuations case, in which she accused Trump of inflating the value of his assets to obtain commercial loans on his real estate projects, all of which were paid back in full with interest, making $40 million for the banks that lent the money to him. She also pushed for the extension of the statute of limitations so that E. Jean Carroll could file a sexual assault lawsuit against Trump long after the statute of limitations would normally have expired. Little did Letitia know that she would catch Andrew Cuomo and Mayor Eric Adams in two such lawsuits. But my next guest has been digging into Letitia James, into her financial disclosures, into her campaign finances, and on the basis of what he's found, it appears that there are some people who are above the law. Sam Antar, very interesting guy, is a former certified public accountant whose career trajectory took a very strange turn. He went from a perpetrator of a huge crime to being an investigator of financial fraud. As the former chief financial officer of Crazy Eddie, you remember him, a major consumer electronics brand in the northeastern United States in the 1980s, Sam was a key figure in one of the decade's most famous security fraud schemes. After his criminal conviction and paying his debt to society, Sam Antar redirected his expertise towards forensic accounting, leveraging his firsthand knowledge of financial fraud to help combat white-collar fraud. His unique perspective and experience and his technical expertise have made him an expert advisor to various clients, including government agencies, law enforcement organizations, law firms and accounting firms, independent investment research firms, hedge funds, and other public companies. He has a very lively blog at whitecollarfraud.com. Sam Antar, welcome to the Roger Stone Show.
Roger, as always, thank you for having me on.
You are breaking news every week, and you did so again a week ago or so. I saw where you had determined that Attorney General Letitia James had taken out $400,000 in mortgages on a home that was appraised, I believe, at $120,000. Some places she reported this as a second home. Other places she reported it as a income property, but she fails to have reported the income from it. There's a lot of problems with that, just that. Let's talk about that before getting to the new bombshell information.
Okay, the first property that we're talking about is the North Fork, Virginia property, which she purchased in the year 2020 for approximately $137,000. Initially, she took out a mortgage from OVM Financial for $109,600. Now, the property was initially, when she took out the mortgage, the property was initially classified as a second home. However, in subsequent financial filings with the New York State Ethics Board, she's always listed that property as an investment property. Now, let's go back to the original $109,600 mortgage. That mortgage was supposed to be disclosed on her personal financial filings with New York State. It was never disclosed. In subsequent years, she took out 2 additional mortgages in the amounts of $150,000 to $250,000 for Freedom Mortgage and $100,000 to $150,000 from National Mortgage. Those are disclosed on her New York State filings. However, an exhaustive title search, those loans do not show up in any property records. So she has one loan that shows up in property records but does not show up in her financial disclosures, and she has another 2 loans that show up in her financial disclosures but do not show up in her property records. The total range of those 3 loans is between $350,000 and $509,600. Now you compare it to her disclosure, her assertion, her representation of the value of the property, which is $100,000 to $150,000, and you get a loan-to-value ratio exceeding 2 times the value of the property, which doesn't make sense when most loan-to-value ratios are between 70 to 90%. Here, the loan-to-value ratio exceeds the value of her own property. Even if we want to be more conservative and use the assessed value of the property, I'm not saying that the assessed value reflects the market value, but the assessed value is higher than what she stated was the market value of the property, and the assessed value was $187,000. It's still a lopsided loan-to-value ratio, exceeding 2 times the value of the assessed value of the property if we use that. So under any measure, whether we use her numbers or more conservative numbers, that property seems to be over-leveraged in an era where people usually can never over-leverage a property 2 to 3 times its value.
Extraordinary. Under Section 73 of the New York Public Officials Law, elected officials like Letitia James are required to file foreign annual statements with the New York State Ethics Commission, Ethics and Lobbying Commission, and they must disclose all real estate holdings except personal residence that don't generate income. Failure to do so is a crime subject to the penalty of perjury. Yet you say she never disclosed the first mortgage on this property.
She never disclosed the initial loan, the OVM mortgage she took out when she purchased this property. But more puzzling is she discloses 2 other mortgages, but they don't appear on the property records. Where the hell are they? Usually when you get a mortgage on a property, it's recorded. This is unrecorded. At best, these are unrecorded mortgages, which still raises questions. How do you get an unrecorded mortgage on a property and in amounts exceeding the value of the property?
Very interesting. We're talking, if you're just tuning in, we're talking to Sam Antar. He is the editor and publisher of WhiteCollarFraud.com, a very lively blog that he runs, where he does exclusive, continuing investigations and covering more and more questions regarding transparency. When we come back, I'm going to ask Sam about the Attorney General's principal home in Brooklyn. We had examined that a couple of weeks ago, and there appeared to be nothing irregular about it. But, upon closer look, based on a new piece that Sam has written, there are a number of potential ethical problems and violations there. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the campaign financing and Act Blue. You now have 19 state attorney generals investigating Act Blue, the Democrat payment processing company that funneled millions of dollars into the campaign of New York Attorney General Letitia James. This is the Roger Stone Show. We'll be right back with more of Sam Antar and more of this in-depth investigation of the personal finances and campaign finances of New York's Democrat Attorney General, who says that no person is above the law. Well, except perhaps her. We'll be right back.
This is the Roger Stone Show.
Get ready for Universal Epic Universe, featuring the wizarding world of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic, and Super Nintendo World. Now open at Universal Orlando Resort. Tickets and packages on sale now at universalorlando.com.
Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
The rural way of life is about making everyone feel at home. Tractor Supply chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to transform intelligent customer service. Together, we put the power of AI to work across 2,200 stores, keeping things running seamlessly inside, curbside, and countryside. This is elevated customer experience. This is Tractor Supply with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Shopping is hard, right? But I found a better way. Stitch Fix online personal styling makes it easy. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. And he sends just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and styling tips. I keep what works and send back the rest. It's so easy. Make style easy. Get started today at StitchFix.com/Spotify. That's StitchFix.com/Spotify.
Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump.
They went after a guy named Roger Stone, who's sitting in the office. And I'll say this in front of Roger, he's no baby. And right now, he's cleaner than anybody in this place. No, they treated him very unfairly.
All of these presidents relied on one man to secure their seat in the Oval Office. That man is Roger Stone.
Roger Stone.
This is the Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group. Now, here's Roger Stone.
And we're back. We're talking to Sam Antar. He's a former certified public accountant. As the chief executive, the chief financial officer of Crazy Eddie. He pulled one of the greatest securities frauds of all time. He was convicted for his crimes, paid his debt to society, and reinvented himself as a forensic research accounting expert, leveraging his firsthand knowledge of financial fraud to help combat white-collar crime and political corruption. He has taken a deep dive into the financial disclosures of New York Attorney General Letitia James. We talked about problems regarding her first mortgage. These are appropriate questions because of the things she accused Donald Trump of doing. And now we go to the question of her principal home in Brooklyn. Initially, Sam, you had opined that there was nothing particularly irregular about that, but then you dug in a little deeper. Tell us about that.
Well, first of all, this is a continuing forensic audit, and as it'll go along, we discover more. Also, as a former criminal myself, I will tell you that fraud is never contained. Fraudsters generally repeat themselves over and over again until they get caught. In fact, if I didn't get caught, who knows, maybe I'd still be doing crime today. I didn't have a God moment where I suddenly realized the error of my ways. Similarly, you have Tish James over here with a Brooklyn property. Okay, there is a financial disclosure guide that's put out by New York State that explicitly states mortgages on any income property identified in response to question 17, which is another part of the disclosure, must be reported without imposing a minimum balance threshold. Now, her property in Brooklyn is not her primary home or secondary home under these disclosure guidelines. It is considered a rental property because she rents it to other parties, and therefore every mortgage in the amount of $1 or $100,000 or $1 million has to be disclosed. It is not subject to the $10,000 disclosure floor for regular liabilities because it's a mortgage on an income property. Now, with that in mind, I went further and I investigated along the lines of what she did with her Virginia property. And I found a bunch of irregularities as it relates to her Brooklyn property. For example, in For example, she has a mortgage from First Savings Bank. It was listed in her financials since at least 2020. Okay? However, there is no trace of that loan in the property records in ACRIS, which is the New York property database. So in other words, just like the Virginia property where she took 2 loans that weren't listed in the property records, here she took a loan that was not listed in the property records. There's just no trace of this loan in the ACRIS property records. It doesn't exist according to ACRIS, which is the New York State property database, which reports all mortgages, deeds, HELOCs, etc.
So do you see a situation in which this is also an over-leveraged property?
No, it's not over-leveraged, but the disclosure behavior is the same. I have 2 other examples. She has a Citibank home equity line of credit, which was recorded on October 29th, 2017. However, she did not disclose it in it was recorded on August 29th, 2019. However, she did not disclose it in the 2019, 2020, and 2021 reports with New York State. She did disclose it 3 years late in 2022, but she didn't categorize it as a HELOC, home equity line of credit. She disclosed it as a mortgage. And then suddenly in 2023's disclosures, it disappears. Now, if you are going to satisfy a mortgage and repay it back or satisfy a HELOC, right, and take it off, in other words, you're done with the HELOC, it's done. A satisfaction has to be filed with New York State or New York City. No such satisfaction was filed. So why wasn't the HELOC disclosed for 3 years? Why was it labeled as a mortgage instead of a HELOC in 2022? And in 2023, why did the disclosure disappear without explanation?
It seems to me she has another enormous problem. Elon Musk today saying an investigation has found that 5 Act Blue funded groups are responsible for Tesla protests. Troublemakers Disruption Project, Rise and Resist, Indivisible Project, and Democrat Socialists of America. Now, Act Blue is the Democrat payment processing company that very conveniently turns off the function that when an individual gives using a credit card, it does not match the credit card to the mailing address of the person who allegedly owns it. This has created a pattern of fraud in which Letitia James is one of the leading perps. At this point, almost more than a third of Letitia James' quote-unquote donors have been identified, contacted, and a majority of them deny having ever made any such contribution, never mind a pattern of contributions. Act Blue is currently under investigation for allowing foreign and illegal donations in criminal violation of campaign finance regulations. This week, 7 Act Blue senior officials resigned, including the Associate General Counsel, who reportedly was locked out of his computer. This appears to me to be potentially a massive fraud. Chris Gleason, the leading investigator on this project, says that many Democrats have been involved in this same pattern of fraud. I want to thank my guest, Sam Antar, for joining us today and shedding light on the Attorney General's personal finances. We're going to keep you updated on this breaking story. And folks, as I promised, before we're done today, my family recipe for baked clams oreganata, because, well, the only thing I love more than politics is eating. Maybe music would be up there as well. You're in the right place. It's the Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Audio Network, and we'll be back with Congressman Eric Burleson. He's going to tell us what it was like when Congressman Al Green got removed from the U.S. House of Representatives.
No doubt, you're in deep. Your soul is tight. You can't breathe. Another kiss do, do.